Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the Daily Yield. Questions in the chat, please. Now, today I'm here with Plukas, Jonathan, and Mary. And the four of us yesterday were on a scrum. And the reason why I've asked these three to join me today is that I want to walk through the 30-minute scrum because it did end up turning into a 2-hour meeting. And somewhere in the middle of it, someone said, I need to get Sam to just talk me through why seeds are amazing again, and then I'll be okay. And that's not a small thing to say out loud about your idea for a company, the idea that your company's built on. So it led to some really interesting conversations, and at times a hard conversation. And I'm going to add Daniel in here. Welcome,
Hey, you
Daniel.
all.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello.
Can I share something real quick?
Sure.
I was building the new version of Watch Me Pivot, like Claude released this new version. Open the browser for me. Then I click the player and I see, is my team live? And then I remember, oh yeah, Daily Yield is happening. That's how I remember. Sorry, I'm
Well, I'm
late.
really glad that you're able to join us. I was just leading us up to why we're all here and explaining that yesterday we had a little hard conversation where we kind of really questioned for a moment what we're doing here and why it's important to us. And it's not a small thing to kind of, allow doubt to enter the group space and for us to discuss it. So in the spirit of transparency, we've moved this conversation to the Daily Yield platform. And I want to start with kind of a question. Let's go around. What particularly does anyone remember about the scrum yesterday? Maybe Plukas, you could start by kind of talking us through where you think we kind of opened up the conversation to an interesting place.
Yeah, so I think I've been kind of feeling down like this week in general. And then Mary kind of kicked off the conversation yesterday by reminding us that we had committed to doing some sort of like public launch on ProductCon or something similar on Monday. And the thing that we were planning on launching, at least as of last week, was like the seed creator, where somebody could come in, download our code, maybe point it at their Vibe coded app. It was in my mind what they would do, like say they've created something and then they could run our tool to create a seed from it so that anybody else could recreate it and install it. And as I was trying to be built, I was responsible for building this for the past like week or so. And it's just, I've been hitting my head against the wall and like failure after failure of like getting this thing to be good enough, basically. And so that kind of got me kind of down. And it's like, okay, should we even be launching this right now? Like, it's not going to be ready. What else can we do? Why are we even doing this? Like, Who is this for? Like, then I started to spiral a little bit.
So, because, and I just want to say, for someone of your level of expertise and experience, this is kind of a rare event, right? For you to kind of have this moment of like, I can't get this to work. Is this even good enough, right? This is something that you're not used to. Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think at this level of a startup, it's just like everything is so hazy and so fuzzy that it's like hard to remember what your North Stars are, or like maybe they're not even that clear. And so, there's just a lot of different things that kind of led to this moment, I think. Like with Sam not being here, like I think a lot of us have been working kind of more in silos and not communicating, like, not talking to each other as much. And so you can kind of, when you're not working as closely together, it can be even easier to get lost in all of the fog.
Yeah. Jonathan, I remember you kind of offering a similar kind of question really about what we're doing and this idea that, our seed creator is a flagship moment for us, especially with the launch, and without us really cracking it now, how confidently could we go into Monday's launch? Do you want to kind of speak to your reservations yesterday?
Well, I mean, I think for a product launch, the main thing I feel is if we're going to put something out in the world, like what information are we going to get from it? And if we don't have a general like thesis on like, here's what we think we're building, and then we can evaluate that thesis, then I would say like my thing is like, what are we inflicting upon the world, or are the signals we're going to get be the wrong signals because we didn't build what we wanted? So I think having clarity around that was like pretty important to me.
Yeah, yeah, I think we all agreed with that. And then Daniel, I do remember that, you've been building seeds, and I think, you have a large number of personal seeds that you've developed. And I think a moment of kind of clarity came for the group when you offered some of your thoughts about where we're at. Can you kind of share what your response was to some of this doubt?
Yeah. So at first, like, the question was, why? What is the value that we're getting from seeds? And the answer wasn't like in the tip of my tongue, right? It was more like an interview from Lucas and Jonathan to like trying to understand why do I think seeds are valuable, and we were able to get some. I guess I was able to get more clarity about like why do I like seeds and what do I like about seeds. And what would a seed need to have for me to like that seed? And a few of those answers is it is easier for me to understand what is that thing proposing to ship. So, for instance, what is all the user value that this seed solves? So, the list of features for that software. It is easy for me to change that list of features. So if I want to add a new feature, I don't need to figure out all the different pipes that connect that code together to add a new feature. I just add to the list of requirements. And this is something, this is a not solved problem yet, but the vision is the way we describe each feature for that software in that seed also describes how you verify, how you test, just the way the user would use that. And this is what guarantees that if my agent implementing that feature goes through feature by feature, verifies one by one, at the end you will have something working.
Lucas, you're nodding your head. Do you agree? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, when the biggest thing that came out of the conversation for me yesterday was when Daniel was talking about building his My People project, and he was saying that he actively was building it from a seed, like not like every project that I've done so far, I've had like this canonical source code that's like, this is the thing that, and then I'm trying to extract the seed from that. But Daniel was like, no, I don't even have the source code. My source code is the seed. It is these specs with these verification steps. And anytime I want to make a change, I can just update the seed, add a new feature just in like prose, and then build it from scratch. And so that was like knowing that that's how he was like, not like he was choosing to develop that way, not just because we're working on seeds, but like that's what he found for this project to like be really an effective way to build it. And so that was it's kind of when my mind started to shift a little bit.
It's funny in the follow-up. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like either Lucas or Daniel, you need to explain this a little bit further for even me, which I think is a really, really funny kind of thing that happens in startups too, whenever we're like iterating and building so quickly. It's like, I hear that, I'm like, yeah, build on the spec, build on the seed. And I'm like, well, what is the spec? What is the seed? Like, we're designing this, and I don't even have a full, clear, like, answer to that. It's like, it's all in progress, but I'm curious that, like, Daniel, you said you were building off of the seed. What does that seed look like as you're building it? Like, is it a markdown file with, like, the purpose, the, like, verification steps? Like, explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question. And what I can tell about this is I'm not reading every line of the seed. I'm not reading the seed to force a structure or force a format. When I'm developing, I'm talking to my agent's manager that I'm calling boss, right? So I tell boss, I really would like to see a wall of terminals on so I can visualize all the agents doing the work live. So that's my input, like that the feature that I want. And then I ask, hey, can you two paths here would be, hey, update the source code for me and show me the thing running. And this is the easiest path. Change the code, show me running. Okay. The problem with this approach is if tomorrow I want to do the same thing, and maybe I don't have the full context of that feature, I need to explain myself again and describe what me as a user I want and the decisions for it to build that thing for me. So instead of doing this half, I'll ask, hey, did you change the seed? Did you hydrate that seed? How many substrates did you validate this thing on? And then where is the video that shows this new feature running? And the only way for this to work is it didn't change the source code, it changed the seed, and then set up a fresh container and ask the agent inside the container, hey, install this prompt, install this spec, install this seed, which includes the thing that I asked. And the only thing I asked at the top was like using my natural voice on my people. Hey, I want to have a wall of terminals that I can visualize my agents working live. That was my input. But this needs to happen, and not like, if this is something that happens once, this is not enough for me. I need to see this happening multiple times to trust that the change that he did on this seed will work tomorrow when I ask it to build that thing again. That's the change. That's the difference between building from the seed or building from the spec versus just editing the source code.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that you mentioned in a follow-up conversation that we had was, you've been challenged by some of your audience before, Daniel. Why wouldn't you just clone a repo, right, and just kind of work that way? Can you kind of just talk through the distinction in layman's terms?
Yeah. So first time I got this question was like, so what is it was the same reflection that Jonathan did. Like, why do you use seeds? Like, if you want to, if you're using seeds because you want to adapt other people's code, just fork the clone, ask your agent to read the code and do the change you want, and then you have your version of that thing running, right? Which my response was, yeah, you can do that. Go do that. Like, you can't actually do that. And the response, like in the response to why would I prefer to do this versus that, is what we're discussing today and yesterday, and easier to understand. I don't need to read all the source code. So I gave this example already. When I don't know if I shared this with you, Mary, but when I was building Almanac, I had an example of, like, that's the source code. Read the source code, understand all the features, all the things that this source code is solving, to then create this seed. So now I have the list of features that I want to implement. And by having the seed, I don't need to do this process of trying to extract the important things. I know what are the important things because they are described in the seed. And if an important feature is not in the seed, then this feature doesn't exist. And if there's something in the seed, this will be created in the software.
Jonathan, I want to know how you respond to that.
Well, I think it was interesting because when this was actually brought up at our Scrum last Thursday was kind
Mm,
of what kicked it off. And yeah, it felt to me like there was a little bit of an indirect hop. Why are we having this artifact, kind of going out of our way instead of just going a direct route of asking an agent to kind of do the clone and figure out the install. And what was interesting about that was I think it really came about that Lucas, Daniel, and I were all thinking about like the source of truth of seeds in different manners. And in that conversation, we all just had our different thoughts, and I think we kind of went our separate way at that point. And over the weekend, at least I had some reflection. I was like, well, I think the way Daniel's going about it is the most like forward-looking way. When you
forward
have,
looking.
yeah, so I mean, the notion of a startup is always that something about the world has changed, and we need to take advantage of that change. And I think AI has fundamentally changed how software can be written. And so if you think of all the changes AI is doing, I think Daniel's approach um, is the one that's kind of how can we leverage it in the best possible way, or at least in the most aggressive way. And so, kind of coming back to the conversation the other day, it was a little bit more about okay, well, this is really interesting. There's all these implications that I don't think we've even fully thought through, but it's like if we want to be the most aggressive, which I think startups should be, then I think we need to think about the approach of like, well, what if all the software is actually in the seed and it's really more of like a pseudocode with a lot of verification? Like, is that what the future software could be? And I think that's a pretty compelling thing to test and try.
I'm very relieved to hear you say that, because yesterday after the meeting, and I had to bounce out early, but I kind of left at a moment where there was still some feeling of like, is this direction worth pursuing in a kind of meaningful way? And I have to say that stayed with me like a cloud last night. I was, because I respect you guys so much, and I'm not steering this thing. You guys are steering this thing, and I'm just along for the ride to help get it out into the world, the messaging. But I feel like this is what startups have to go through, right? They face these existential moments where you have to question your assumptions you're building on, even if it, unsteadies the ground beneath your feet. Mary, do you want to talk a little bit about that? This is your first startup by a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's normal for a startup at this time and stage to like go through this. I mean, like we've already had like what three of these kind of like existential pivots since we started on Plow like 4 months ago. So by that record, we're right on time. But no, I think I'm not saying that we need a pivot by any means, but I think what is really, really important in this exploration process is like chasing the users and figuring out what the users need too. I think there is an element that like what Jonathan was talking about of being like forward thinking and embracing like the frontier of where technology is going is super important. But we also need to be solving like problems that people want solved. And so I think my biggest takeaway even from this conversation was like, well, we're not quite sure what the seed creator should look like, but it's like we're making this huge assumption in that people want seeds. Like, have we really validated that yet? Like, and so I think like honestly, my feeling after this conversation was like, I want to talk to people. I want to talk to people and like watch them install a seed. Like not even create their own seeds yet, but like watch them install a seed and see if they can find value out of that. And so that way we know, like, is the seed convention that we're building, like, does it bring value to people? And like, does it get them excited enough to be like, oh, this is cool, but I want to do it this way, or I have this workflow and I want to create it into something. Like that would be like my aha moment would be if like we talked to like 10 devs and 6 of them were like, oh, this is awesome, but I want to I want to share what I have going on over here. I don't really care about my people, but I have this other thing. And if we like heard that signal, it'd be like, yes, seeds, amazing. Like, and I think that's something that like Sam has been really good about instilling in us, is like, we need to be talking to users. And I honestly, like, the people on here, you guys probably haven't seen us talk to users besides y'all. Like, we've been kind of bad at it lately. I'll call us out on that. And put us on blast. Like, there's been times in our like iteration cycle where we're literally interviewing people multiple times a day, and getting what we're working on in front of them. And so, it definitely brought me back to that fundamental need of like really making sure we're not just talking to ourselves, we're not just in our own heads, but really getting that outside validation or invalidation from real folks.
Yeah. I think from a team perspective, I think we all see the value and we kind of excited to test the hypothesis, but right now we're just trying to get the best quality version out, to test, right? So we're kind of stuck in this kind of limbo. But I think, really appreciative of anyone and everyone who's watching this yield, because our community is becoming more and more important as we kind of open up, our exposure to our thinking and to our process, and building out, a feedback loop. I just really hope that you guys, if you are seeing the value that we're seeing, you guys can support us by either contributing seeds, testing seeds, letting people know about our community so that you can bring in more people to test it. Because ultimately, we do want to spread utility. We want people to be able to use this and get something out of it. And if not, then of course we'll pivot to something else. But yeah. All right. Well, we got to wrap this up. I think I just want to ask Plukas, because you were the one that raised your hand yesterday. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling much better. It was a great therapy session yesterday.
Nice. Group therapy.
Yeah, honestly, also what felt good was just like we were all like, I felt like I was a little bit lost, and just like reconnecting with people on the team and talking through these things was just like super, super helpful. And it's like a good reminder that when everything's so hazy, we're all kind of going and maybe going off in like slightly different directions. And then, we kind of need to pull together and really regroup every once in a while. So
great.
I appreciate everybody spending the few hours yesterday to help me through that.
I'm personally excited for Sam to watch this episode and see how we took care of this on our own. I know he would have had a lot to contribute in this moment, but I think as a team, we managed to get somewhere positive in the end. Anyone else want to share anything before we bow out for today?
There's something I want to share. So I think yesterday I was messing around asking Claude to generate different types of images and create the prompt, generate the image, create multiple versions of the prompt, create multiple versions of the image, ask my taste, iterate on this until I nail the thing. So I get this golden prompt that generates the thing I want. And this is like the seed for that image. And each generation takes like 40 seconds. That's happening for images today. Like I can share my idea, my vision, and have it implement different versions, pick the one I like until I nail the prompt. I think in the future, I don't know how many years or months from now, we will reach this world where we can share our vision and our idea and have implement just like we're generating images today, but like with products, with software. So that's my vision for it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I think we all share that excitement for that vision. Thank you very much. All right. Well, join us again tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we'll see you all in Discord. Thank you so much.
See you.